Around this time, Olaf the Restless was once again eager to go raiding. The Northmen had just begun to plunder the country of Ireland and to build long ports there, and Olaf, who had heard the tales, wished to go and see for himself, and he asked Thorgrim to accompany him. Now, Olaf had asked Thorgrim many times over the years to go raiding once again, but Thorgrim was happy with his life on the farm and did not care to leave. But the death of Halbera made it hard for him to stay, and so he agreed to join Olaf for the summers raiding to the west. In Vik, and in all that country, young men were raised to be farmers and warriors both, and that was also true of Harald and Odd. When Thorgrim decided to sail with Olaf, both were eager to go raiding with him. A young man like Odd did not understand how great were his joys at home, with a fine wife and children, but Thorgrim understood that, even more with the death of his own wife. He knew as well how hard it would be on Signy and the children if Odd were to leave them to go a Viking, and so he convinced Odd to remain at home. Finally, Thorgrim and Harald joined Olaf and his crew aboard the longship Red Dragon, and they sailed to Ireland, where they met with many adventures, and won and lost several fortunes. They had meant to stay in Ireland for one season only, but the gods willed that they should not leave so easily, and so they were several years in that country. Olaf was struck down in battle at a place called Vik Lo, and Thorgrim became the leader of his men. For a while he was lord of the long port of Vik Lo, and his men called him Lord Thorgrim. But finally he and his men grew tired of that place and decided to go a Viking once again, and see if, perhaps, the gods would allow them to return to their homes in Norway. They came at last to a place the Irish called Loch Garman, and built a long port where they could repair their sea-damaged ships, and build new sails from cloth bought from the Irish at a monastery called Ferns. While they were there, their company was joined by another band of Northmen, and soon Thorgrim had 8 ships, and more than 300 men under his command. Thorgrim had decided at that time that he would not leave Ireland, but rather would return to Vik Lo, and once again be lord of that place. But before he could sail, the Irish, led by a monk named Brother Beck, attacked the long port and caused great slaughter. Thorgrim and his men got their ships under way, with the thought of crossing the bay to the far shore, but a storm came up, and it blew them out into the open sea. For 3 days the storm raged, and the Northmen could do nothing but hunker down and ask the gods to deliver them. And the gods did just that, save for the smallest ship of the fleet, named Falcon, which was not to be found when the storm ended. The Northmen found themselves in the middle of the ocean, with no idea where they were. Thorgrim chose a course by his best guess, and several days later they landed at a place they did not know, but soon found it was the country Englalond, where Thorgrim had raided with Olaf as a young man. Englalond was a country of great wealth, as Thorgrim knew, and soon they found a rich monastery and captured it, finding considerable plunder and nearly 200 English men-at-arms. The prisoners they meant to sell as slaves, but soon an Englishman named Oswin arrived and said that his lord would be willing to pay ransom for the men-at-arms and the priests as well. Thorgrim and his lead men decided that they would wait long enough to see if Oswin would make good on that offer. Here is what happened. Chapter 1. Now of thy wars take one from out the stall. Let him now with my hog run. The Poetic Edda. It was dark, and Thorgrim Nightwolf was running. The ground was moving swiftly under his feet, a fine sensation, odd and familiar at the same time, the tall grass brushing against him as he raced through it. He felt his body moving in a smooth, easy, nearly effortless way. The stiff elbows and knees were no more. The tight pull of the old wound in his back, the sharp stab of pain he often felt from the spear he had recently taken inside, all gone. It was the motion of power and youth. He was aware of the scents in the air. They, too, were both familiar and strange. He could smell wood smoke and the scent of animals, the odour of wet grass and the salty tang of the sea, not so far off.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.